Good morning, dear students of class 9. Welcome to biology class. In the last class, we have learned about dentition. If you remember, try to recall it back. We have learned about the dentitions, where we have learned about the structure of the tooth and the different types of tooth like incisor, canine, premolar and molar, and we have learned about the dental formula also. Okay, now today we learn about the second glands of the digestive system. Okay, that is salivary glands. Clear? As the name suggests, salivary glands will help in the secretion of saliva. Okay, so saliva is very slightly acidic with a pH of 6.8 and is a fluid containing water. Nearly it contains about 99% of water. It contains salt, mucus and the enzyme called salivary amylase, which is also called ptyalin. Okay, so salivary glands will help in the secretion of the saliva, which is slightly acidic with a pH of 6.8, and it contains about 99% of saliva, salt, mucus and enzymes, and it used to produce an important enzyme that will help in the process of digestion known as salivary amylase or ptyalin. Clear? So saliva is secreted by the three pairs of salivary glands, and those glands are mainly parotid glands, submandibular glands and sublingual glands. Okay, so first one, parotid glands, located just in front of and beneath each ear. So you can see over here, this one is the parotid gland. Okay, so this parotid gland are located just in front of and beneath each ear. Then number 2 gland is called the submandibular glands, which are lying close to the inner ear of the lower jaw on each side. Okay, so this one is the submandibular gland, which are just close to the lower jaw on each side. And last one is sublingual glands, just below the tongue. So this one is the sublingual glands present just below the tongue. So these are the three glands which are responsible for the secretion of saliva: parotid gland, submandibular gland and the sublingual glands. Okay, so remember the name of these glands and their location. Okay, so this is the location of these glands in the human body, we can see. Okay, now let's talk about the function of saliva. So saliva used to moisten and lubricate the inner lining of the moral cavity and the surface of the tongue to facilitate speaking and swallowing. So mainly function of saliva is to just lubricate, just moisten, okay, the moral cavity, so that it will help in speaking and in swallowing of the food particles. It moistens and lubricates the food particles, which will help in swallowing. It acts as a solvent, dissolving some food particles to stimulate the taste buds of the tongue. It will help the food particles to stick together to form the bolus. Bolus means the mass of food mass. Okay, so this saliva will help the food particles to remain together. Okay, it forms a food mass which is known as bolus, B-O-L-U-S, bolus, so that they can be swallowed in a mass, in a food mass. It digests starch. Its enzymes ptyalin will convert the starch into maltose. Okay, this point is very important. The enzyme, that is ptyalin or salivary amylase, which is being secreted by the salivary gland, will convert the starch into maltose. So it converts, or it will digest the starch. Next one, it cleans the mouth and tends to destroy the germs to prevent the teeth decay. And dryness in mouth gives a feeling of thirst. So whenever there will be dryness in the mouth, you used to feel thirsty. Okay, so dryness in mouth gives a feeling of thirsty to replenish the body water. So whenever our body is lacking water, so our mouth will be dry. So in that case, we have to drink the water. So dryness in mouth will give a feeling of thirst to just replenish the amount of water present in the body. So thus the saliva also help to maintain the water balance in the body. So these are the function of saliva. Okay, now next one we will talk about swallowing and peristalsis. Clear? So before that, we'll just see this diagram. So look over here kindly. Okay, so first of all, look at the labeling part. Remember the word pharynx. Okay, salivary gland, which we have discussed. And remember epiglottis and glottis, then the larynx or voice box. Okay, then we have got oesophagus, then we have got windpipe or trachea. So the bolus that we used to eat, or the food that we used to eat, must be prevented from entering into the trachea or the windpipe or into the larynx. Remember very carefully, the food that we used to eat must be prevented from entering into the windpipe or into the voice box. by chance if the food particles will enter into the larynx, then it can lead to suffocations. Okay, that's called choking. CHOK, choking, breathing in difficulty, respirations, even lead to the death of an individuals. Clear? Otherwise, we have got some natural phenomena. We have to go for coughing also, so that the food can really come out through the larynx or the windpipe. Clear? So just remember this word: salivary glands, epiglottis, larynx, pharynx, and oesophagus. Now let's come back to topic: swallowing of food and peristalsis movement to the oesophagus that will lead to the swallowing of the bolus from our mouth. Okay, so in swallowing there are several simultaneous actions. There are different steps which are involved in the process of swallowing. First one, the tongue. It is to press the upward and back against the roof. Roof means the uppermost part of the mouth, the palate. Okay, so the tongue is to press upward and back against the roof, the palate of the mouth. So palate means the upper part of the mouth. Okay, the roof. That's called palate. And whenever the tongue press the upward and the back against the palate, this will force the bolus to go into the throat or the pharynx. So due to the action of the tongue, when the tongue presses the upward part and the palate, the upper part of the mouth, the bolus will move into the throat or into the pharynx. Okay, then the back part of the roof, which is called the soft palate, also the back part of the mouth cavity, which is also called the soft palate, it closes the opening between the throat and the nasal passage. That means this will prevent the entering of the food into the nasal passage. So the soft palate will close the opening between the throat and the nasal passage, so that it will prevent the entry of food particles into the nasal passage. Then next one is the larynx, the voice box, located at the entrance of the windpipe. Okay, so larynx, the voice box, located at the entrance of the windpipe, is pulled upward. So this larynx is pulled upward so that it will close the epiglottis. Okay, so listen very carefully. The larynx, the voice box, is located at the entrance of the windpipe. So this larynx needs to be covered during the process of food swallowing, and it will be covered by the help of epiglottis. Okay, so this will prevent the entry of food particles into the windpipe or into the voice box and prevent from choking or prevent from difficulty in breathing. So when this epiglottis will just cover the voice box or let's say the windpipe, then the only passage, the only way for the bolus to enter is into the gullet or into the oesophagus. So let's look over here. So what is that? We are taking the food particles. Clear? Now that food particles, by the action of the tongue will push it upwards into the upper palate, and that food particle will enter into the pharynx part. Clear? Now the back one, the soft palate, okay, will prevent the entry of food particles into the nasal cavity. Clear? So now the next part is that the larynx, the voice box. Okay, the voice box needs to be covered, the trachea or the windpipe needs to be covered, because by chance if the food enters over there, it will lead to difficulty in breathing. So this windpipe or the trachea, let's say, okay, windpipe, trachea, and the voice box larynx is covered by the help of the structure known as epiglottis, or flap-like cover. Okay, so this epiglottis, the flap-like cover, the glottis, will cover the voice box and the trachea, the windpipe, so that the food will not enter inside the windpipe, and the only way for the food or the bolus to enter is through the oesophagus. Can you see second figure? So over here, the trachea or the windpipe is closed by the help of epiglottis or the glottis. Okay, so the only way for the food bolus is to pass through the oesophagus. So you can see the arrow over here. So only way for the food or the bolus is to pass through the oesophagus, and due to the web of constriction and web of relaxation to the oesophagus, the food or the bolus will move through the oesophagus and reach the alimentary canal where digestion occurs. Clear? So here we have finished about the salivary glands, and we have learnt about the movement or the actions that occur during swallowing and peristalsis. So kindly remember about the salivary glands, which is to secrete saliva, and mainly three glands are there: parotid gland, submandibular glands, and the sublingual glands. Remember the locations. Okay, then remember the function of saliva and the movement or the actions which are involved in swallowing and peristalsis of bolus or the food particles. Okay, and go to the figure. So this much for today's class. So we'll continue with the same chapter, the digestive system, in the another class. So thank you and see you in next class.